Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Let's talk about women. I'll just tell some stories tonight. I'm sure there's a message in here somewhere. I think it's common for a lot of young men, not all, but for a lot of young men, to put women on a pedestal because of beauty, because you're real horny, so you chase beauty. You chase chicks because you want to fuck them. You're not really interested in a serious relationship. Maybe you're in your early 20s, still trying to keep your options open, and whatever you tell yourself. And instead of chasing personality, chasing character, chasing virtue, we chase the most shallow, most temporary aspect of ourselves, people's beauty. I was like this. I think a lot of guys were. I can tell you how I put women on a pedestal and how it bit me in the ass. I was dating a woman who I was engaged to, and we were in a serious relationship, and I was in love with her, and it was a very legitimate relationship. However, I didn't know a lot about her. How could I get engaged to a woman I didn't know a lot about? Well, she was hot, she had big tits, and she had blonde hair, she had the look I liked. She adored me. We had good sex, multiple orgasms. Figure, well, look, let's get married. Our relationship got rocky as we got older. Naturally, when relationships start on shallow virtue, on nothing really, when they have nothing to stand on, they crumble like a house. But we were trying to make it work. I was still loyal. I wasn't the type to cheat. We were living together. We're in Santa Barbara, and we still have our wedding date, but we were bickering, and the relationship wasn't as fun as it was a year earlier than that. We had some friends. This chick Samantha, and the dude, I forget what the dude's name was. Doesn't matter. The dude was a skateboarder, a professional skateboarder. That's all he did. He didn't have a job or nothing. He was sponsored by a skateboard company and he made good money. The chick was Samantha was a professional tennis player from Australia. And beautiful, blonde, and had the look that I liked, athletic. But I'm in a committed relationship, even though it is crumbling, and I kind of knew it. Her and her boyfriend were also kind of on the rocks, having a hard time. And they were living together. They were friends of ours. We would hang out with them. Her and her boyfriend got in some sort of fight, not a physical fight, but a real bad one, and she was crying. They lived near us, and I was going to my car, and I saw her crying, and went over and talked to her, and she said, could I give her a ride to her parents' house? She needs some time away from her boyfriend. And she thinks they're going to break up, and in my head I was thinking, wow, hey, this might be an opportunity, because me and my fiance are crumbling, crashing, and burning fast. Maybe I can make the old switcheroo. You know what I'm talking about, guys, the old switcheroo. When you bounce from one chick to the next, you don't give yourself any time in between to be single. You think you're being so smart, so slick. So I drove her down to, I think it was Carpinteria, a little bit south of Santa Barbara, where her family lived. Dropped her off at a house. She had a nice house. And as I walked her up to the front of the house, which I didn't need to do, we had this moment where it was like the energy was there. It's like she was vulnerable, I guess, and maybe she finally saw me in a certain light. I don't know what it was, but as we stood at the door, we had this moment, and it was like out of a movie. And we literally felt like two ships passing, you know, where it just wasn't meant to be. And we verbalized something like that, like Alan, that's right. And she was like, if I wasn't in such a committed relationship with Alan, and if you weren't, you know, getting ready to get married to Noelle, my friend, because her and Noelle were friends, then we could go, you know, and I understood that. I wasn't trying to push nothing, but the vibe, and it just felt like I was with the wrong chick. I'm getting ready to marry the wrong chick. This is the person. We're both with the wrong people. We need to be together, and we both kind of felt this. At least that's what I thought. So we go our own separate ways. And it was just one of these kind of missed moments in my life where I always thought about Samantha and the one that could have been. And over the years, as time went on, my fantasy of her grew. And I didn't become obsessed or like a stalker or anything like that, but I had put her up in my head, like idolized her, almost godlike, like as if she was the perfect woman. As if she was so amazing and wonderful, and had these fantasies of her. Fantasies that kind of tortured me because I missed out on it. So it was years later, 3 or 4 years later. I was up in Santa Cruz. I moved up to Santa Cruz, 500 miles or so north, 400 miles north, whatever it is. Santa Cruz is a pretty cool little surfer town. I was fairly settled in there, socializing, meeting people. I had a van. I was driving my van up in the mountains, Bonnie Doon area. They have some cool little mountain town areas right above Santa Cruz, like right outside of town. It might have been Ben Lomond. It was either Bonnie Doon or Ben Lomond. Doesn't matter. And standing out in front of a little coffee shop, little hippie coffee shop, is Samantha, of all people. And she's beautiful and looked just like she was before. And I go pulling over as fast as I could, jump out, big hugs, have our little reunion, exchange numbers. I jump back in the car. I was with a buddy of mine, a homeboy of mine, and he's like, who's that? Because she's like a 6'1". She's my size. I'm 6'2". She's 6'1", athlete, tennis player. That's a big chick. And he's like, who's that? And she looks like a monster. And I was just like, oh, you know, that's my future wife. This is it. And I thought it was all meant to be. And I was so excited. Never forget how happy I was that day. I was so on top of the world because I had reconnected with Samantha, and she was single. She had gotten rid of Alan, and I was single. So we scheduled a date. On the date, she said, I went and picked her up at her house, and she was living in a group house full of hippies. I was living down in the barrio, in the flats. I picked her up there. She said, let's go to a party. I'm down for a party. So we go to a party at some house in the flats, but it was on the other side of the flats, not in my side. The flats was broken into two sections, a couple sections, and the house was over in, the party was over in the hooker section. The hooker section was a little bit more mellow. It wasn't a gangbang section. People aren't shooting up fucking, there's no drive-bys over in the hooker section. You want drive-bys, car bombings, people, shit like that, all the violence, you gotta come to where I lived over in the crack side. The crack section is where all the violence is. Ain't no white motherfuckers but me and my brother over there, the only ones. The hooker side was a little bit more mellow. It was like a college house full of hippies over on the hooker side. Place was full of fucking hippies. We get in there and she sees some friends of hers and they kind of pull her away, and I figure I'll see her in a minute or so, you know, we're on a date. Well, she was gone for like an hour. I'm just standing around by the keg. Just like, I wonder where she went. I'm in this big house, I don't even know whose house it is. There's these hippies standing around by the keg, and somebody came in with a mason jar, which I thought was moonshine, but it was liquid LSD, this stuff called crystal wash, and he pours some out into this one guy's hands, and then like dogs, these fucking hippies come out and start drinking it out, this fucking crystal wash, this liquid, start drinking it out of this motherfucker's hands, and they're all just like a bunch of them, like 10 or 12 of them. They're like, you want some? No, I'm cool. I mean, I've done LSD before, but I ain't doing it like that. I ain't drinking out of that motherfucker's hands. So finally I asked some hippie, I was just like, hey, you seen Samantha, big chick, blonde hair? She was like, yeah, I seen her in that room down the hallway. So we go down the hallway, and sure enough, she's in there with a whole bunch of other people, and they're all wasted. She's hammered. And I was a little annoyed, and I was just like, I've been out there for the last hour wondering what happened to you. Aren't we on a date or something, And then she takes me aside into the hallway, into a quiet area, and she's like, oh, look, I'm not interested in you in any way, shape, or form. I just brought you to this party to maybe that you could meet some people. And then she just walks off. And I'm standing there like, really, man? So this has been a big fucking waste. My whole image of her, everything crumbled down. It was just like a sandcastle just getting washed away by the water. The whole pedestal crumbled. It was over right there, probably for the best, but I was heartbroken. And I bail out of there, out of the party, because what's the fuck? I'm not staying. Fuck these hippies, fuck this place. I get in my car. I don't got far to go. I'm just going to the other side of the fucking river, San Lorenzo River, over to the other side of the flats. Go hang out with the homies. I pull out, fucking cops light me up. And these cops down the flats are no fucking joke. The stormtroopers, they're no joke. They got to deal with gang members. Everybody down there is pretty much a gang member, and they know who they're dealing with. And I'm in the system as a gang member. So they pull me over. I know I've been drinking all night. I've been drinking beer after beer after beer all night, but I wasn't drunk. He comes up to the car, and I just tell him, look. And I told him the whole story that I just told you right here, right now. All the way up until the point where he pulled me over, and I was like, so here I am. And that's basically what's going on with me. And he was just like, dude. That's what he said. He was like, dude, that sucks. And he said, screw her. He's just like, you say you live over there on the other side? And I was just like, yeah, Raymond Street. And he was just like, you get over there and then you stay put. I know you've been drinking. He's just like, but I'm letting you go. I don't want to make your night any worse. He's like, this is awful. He felt so bad for me. And he let me go. I thought he was going to give me a hug. He was the nicest cop ever. But don't be putting people on pedestals. That's a lesson. Thanks for watching.